Good morning. Welcome to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority Audit Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. This meeting is being recorded. Commissioner Slausa,
Here.
Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Saunders.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody, and appreciate y'all being here. I'd like to start with item number 1 on the agenda, which is acceptance of the minutes, including any corrections. I have one correction I'd like to propose, which is the addition in item 4.0. I'd like to add the following text. Commissioner Slaza asked if leadership for internal audit was included in the budget. Janine Lim presented. Janine Lim confirmed that there was no leadership included in the internal audit budget. That's the part I'd like to include. I'll just reference minute 3349 of the recording of that meeting where that was exactly stated. If that's okay, I'd like to see if we can approve these minutes then. That's fine. Okay, great. So those will be, the minutes will be updated with that one notation. Thank you. So I'd like to move on item number 2. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much, Aram, for being here today. And thank you also for putting together the series of documents. I know you're not going to be formally presenting those, but you provided these for our review ahead of this meeting, which is great. And I thought that how we could structure these points, we could start with the internal audit risk assessment. We could open this up for questions if the commissioners on this committee have questions about those. And I'd like to see Commissioner Saunders, if you have anything you'd like to add or questions you have on item number 2, the internal audit risk assessment that was presented. Okay. I would like to just highlight one section of that, which is, Aaron, I wonder if you could expound on the high risk themes, which are on page 8 of our agenda. I just think that's an important takeaway. This risk assessment, you can maybe just give a quick overview of how the process that you use to come to achieve this assessment, and then expound on point 4 of that document, which are the high-risk themes, because those are some of the key things that you've concluded based on the assessment that was done, that was thorough, that we ought to focus in on. So if you don't mind talking about how this was done and then specifically that section.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. I'm Shanawaz, Principal Auditor. For risk assessment, we conducted it in November and December, and we sent out the risk assessment that consisted of 32 questions to 21 departments. And then once we received the results, we collected all the results and come up with the high risk and medium risk and low risk themes. We added one more risk assessment that was not previously sent while we started our risk assessment. We sent another risk assessment specifically drafted for the legal counsel of LASA, and we incorporated the results from legal counsel that we received from legal counsel to our existing risk assessment. So the risk assessment that we have, it includes all 22 departments, including the legal counsel. For high-risk themes, we came up with invoice processing and payment controls. Most of our departments highlighted that late provider payments, manual tracking, delays in invoice submission, and unclear QA processes pose financial and reputational risk. And then we have contracting and procurement inefficiencies, outdated systems, slow reviews, unclear responsibilities, and inefficient integration of RFSQ process, increase compliance and audit risk. Item 4.3 is outdated systems and technology limitations. Departments consistently reported inefficiencies in contract management system, data tools, and lack of unified platforms. And then we have internal control awareness gaps. Some of our departments specified that uncertainty about internal control structure, fraud indicators, and control responsibilities. And then we have documentation and policy. Policies and procedures require updated content and consistent accessibility. Most of our policies are outdated. They've not been reviewed every year. So those are the high-risk themes that we identified.
Great, thank you. So this is these are the areas that, thanks to this risk assessment, which has been a comprehensive assessment of all the departments, including our legal function. This has been synthesized in this report that we're going to use to inform the next step in our internal audit process. Which is going to be the internal audit plan. So it's great that we have these themes identified. So and now we're going to drill in to the actual audit plan, which is the next item on our agenda, unless Commissioner Saunders, you have any questions about that. But I appreciate you highlighting those areas.
Thank you.
And then, so the next phase is for us to come up with our internal audit plan, which you've provided here is item number 3. And that's going to inform the actual audits that are being performed by your department. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so if we can take a look at that, these are on page 13, I think, of our agenda. It is you have an item number 4 of the internal audit plan. You have a recommended audit engagements. So would you describe a little bit what the work plan you think? So this is going to inform what we do. These are the actual audits that are going to be conducted, that are going to be directed by this risk assessment and internal audit plan. So these audit engagements directly flow from the risk assessment that you did and presented. So these are the 7 recommended audit engagements that you've proposed. Can you just talk about what the work plan is for this and like what those audits ought to look like? And will you start kind of sequentially kind of moving down that list, and about how long do you think it's going to take to execute some of these audits and what's going to be involved?
Yes, of course. So for our recommended audit engagements, we have 4 high priority audits, 2 medium priority, and then the last one is risk informed. So for our high priority audits, we have provider invoice processing and payment control audit. Second is contracting and procurement process audit. Third is systems data integrity and integration audit. And then internal control awareness and training assessment. So each of this audit is going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks to begin and complete. We will be focusing on our high priority audits first, and then afterwards we'll be moving to medium priority and risk informed. So as we already have, Q2 and Q2 is already passed, so we will be beginning our audits in Q3. We have already started one of our audits, which is signatory authority review.
Just want to pause you there. That's actually separate from this audit plan. Yes. So I think that we should make a distinction that there are audits that are flowing directly from the risk assessment, and then that are part of this audit plan. And then there's a separate set of audits that are that we decide is kind of at the discretion of the.
Those were recommended by audit committee.
That are recommended by audit committee. So those are things that we recommended. We wanted. I know that we're behind with the timeline that we wish we were on for this. We're almost halfway through the year, and we haven't really even started. In fact, we have things we still have to close out. That'll be another. We'll talk about that further down in the agenda. But I think we should keep separate the audits that have been recommended by the audit committee versus the ones that have been informed by the risk assessment and this very formal process actually that got us where we're at. So in general, though, just to summarize some of the things you said, we have 4 high priority audits. And those are going to be the ones that your team and that you and your team start with. It's going to be about a 4 to 6 week process. You expect?
Yes, ideally 4 to 6 weeks, but we'll be keeping at least 8 weeks for each audit.
Yeah, I mean, so ideally 4 to 6, but I mean, if we look back historically, it's taken us a lot longer. Yes. We're still closing out audits that were started a long time ago. We'll get to that. Yes. So I think that at least my goal is to try to have a more responsive to make sure that your team has what you need to get these things done on a cadence that's reasonable. So, let's say 4 to 6 weeks is our target. It may take longer than that. If things fall off that, then it's be good if you can communicate with me, and then I can share it with the rest of the audit committee that we're falling off the schedule, or what blocks there are. We also have to make sure that there's an appreciation inside of LAHSA to be responsive to the questions that you have. And we're going to work on some communication LAHSA wide about what the internal audit department, that function is what does. So that way we can put people's minds at ease, but also prepare them for what they're going to need to do to be responsive to have you get through these audits, because we can't have audits going on and dragging on for 22, 23 months like we have had previously. So you're going to start with, for example, you may choose to start with the provider invoice processing and payment controls audit, which is a high priority, the first one listed here. So,
yes. Also, just wanted to add, we have already started drafting our scoping documents for these audits.
Great. So those scoping documents will help inform it. So, for example, just to give what kind of departments would be involved, for example, for that provider invoice processing. And now this is very germane to what we've been going through. Let's just say some of these are really relevant to some of the challenges that LAHSA has been having with kind of dealing with our contracts and getting those things out. So these are really critical things, and it's not surprising that these are issues that we're going to focus in on. So kind of what departments or what kind of individuals or documents would you expect to have access to in order to execute the first or second item on this audit list?
So for our first audit, it's primarily finance department, because it relates to payment controls. And then for the second one, it's our contracting and procurement. So it's primarily contracts and procurement department.
And so obviously you need the cooperation and responsiveness of those departments to be able to do this. And I know that everybody's under pressure, but this is also important. So we have to make sure that you get responses that you need.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's really clear. It's clear to me what the work plan is, and I'm excited about moving this forward.
I appreciate the way you just lined all that up. I see it. It's like,
Thank you.
You're a great teacher. I like how you're walking us through this.
We're trying to be clear here, man. I know we're trying to be clear. And I think
so much.
I think what we're going to try to do, like I mentioned previously, is I think we're going to try to find some ways, and I've spoken with our interim CEO about ways that we can communicate as a committee to LAHSA generally, so that they understand what the internal audit function is, because frankly, we haven't been, we've been less than an athletic internal audit function the last couple of years. We're getting in shape, and I think we're going to be able to do a better job. And I think personally, I believe this is the kind of medicine that will help LAHSA get stronger, internal audit.
Right, because it's not I got y'all, it's how can we improve our system?
This is the first reports for these are internal. Right. So it's better if our teams discover these things that may be issues rather than have somebody from the outside, because that gives us a chance to correct them. This is internal audit is a key function for a highly functioning organization like LAHSA. And I think that this is going to be a great tool to help us move and step towards operational excellence, which is where we all want to be. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Unless there's any other questions on the internal audit plan, I think that's great. And I really appreciate, Aram, your leadership on this.
Thank you.
I know that this is above and beyond some of your expectations when you were brought on board. So thank you. Yeah, I think we do need a motion. I guess we do. Thank you very much, Eileen. So I'd like to have a motion for both of these items. Can I use okay, right.
Yeah.
We just need
just the plan.
Internal audit plan. Okay, I move to approve the internal audit plan.
All right, seconded.
Commissioner Slaughter,
Yes.
Commissioner Saunders.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen, for keeping us administratively in line, because I know I changed the order of these on you for a good reason, because it felt a narrative. But thank you very much, because usually our consent items are up on top. So I'd like to move to the next, which is a report on the final internal audit budget from Janine Lim. And thank you for providing the documents ahead of time. Appreciate it.
Janine Lim, Deputy CFO. I will be presenting item 4.0, a report on the final internal audit budget. I'm going to give you a high-level summary, which is contained on page 14, to just go through the categories of items in the budget. I want to speak first to the total salary and related costs, which come in at $330,578. It was stated on the record that there is no leadership position. There's no leadership included in that budget. So I do want to clarify how the budget was developed. The development of this budget for 25-26 was developed when the internal audit function still was housed under the risk department. So it was determined after the budget was passed that it would be to Lasse's benefit and also to be more in line with the standards, with the internal audit standards, for that function to come out of the risk department and report directly to the audit committee. So in making that move, because the budget was already approved, we had to shift over positions, and the chief functions and the leadership of those functions had to remain in the risk department. So what we recommend here, if there is a need for leadership in this department, is to bolster up the capacity of existing staff and to use the line item, which I will speak to later, from total professional service contracts to help increase the capacity of this department and to fill in any gaps that there might be. So that being said, all the line items in the budget are analogous to the number of FTEs that are in the department. We have 3 FTEs, which are the senior internal auditor, the principal auditor, and the audit coordinator. So all the other line items there, office expense, which comes in at $7,200, office technology, which comes in at $1,300, parking and mileage, which comes in at $4,500, and rent, which comes in at $4,300, are analogous to the amount of FTEs that are present in the department.
When you say analogous, it's multiplier, it's using a multiplier. So 3 FTEs multiplied by some number for office for overhead.
Correct.
Understood. Okay, got you.
And then we foresaw that there would be probably some support that would be needed in this department. And so we have that $146,497 for professional service contracts.
Great. Commissioner Saunders, do you have any questions on this? I appreciate this. I appreciate the presentation and that things have shifted and that, you know, and now the head of risk management, previously risk management and internal audit were both kind of led by the same individual. And then to bring us in, which I think is is absolutely the way to go, that's not the case now. Although my point, which I've made again and again, is that those resources that had been shared by that individual have now been fully allocated to risk management. But I think that the solution, to your point, is that we're going to try to find a way to help bolster our internal team with other resources. And in fact, Aram is going to work on that to try to bring in additional support as necessary for that. Just one request is if you could provide the actuals to Aram, so that way we can understand where we're at with this, to see what kind of budget that we have that actually still remains. So that would be appreciated. So that way, when we plan, we can understand exactly how much resources that we have available to us to be able to do this, because we're going to try to do a hurry up offense and try to get to work for the rest of the balance of this year. But unless there are any other questions, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to item number 5, which is an update on action items from the prior meeting. Specifically on my list, I have where we're at with the COC audit, which is one of the audits that was open that we're still conducting. And then also the mechanism for public input, which actually I received an email today from somebody who had suggestions about something that we would audit. But in any case, let's start with just an update on the COC, the other items, in case I'm missing any, but maybe the COC audit, where are we with that?
Yes, we're still working on COC audit. We're almost, I would say, 40 to 50%. We're still awaiting some documents. So we're currently on the field work stage of this audit. We're still waiting for the documents that we requested. I would say in the beginning of this month. So once we have those documents, we'll work on those and then we'll come up with the audit report.
Okay, would you remind the commission when the COC audit was initiated first?
Not on top of my head, but it was, I think, initiated sometime in 2024.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's been going on since 2024. No, I understand. And this was before your time.
That's right.
And I really appreciate you hustling to try to tie up the loose ends. But from my understanding, this audit has been open for over 20 months. And I'm hoping that we can tie it up, in short order. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then any update on the public channels for public input?
So we asked from our legal counsel, we were told that there are a lot of risks involved getting that set up on, getting it set up as an extra on our website. So we will probably be going towards the what you suggested earlier with the auditor controller.
County auditor controller.
Sure. Yeah, county auditor controller. So we'll be going that way probably.
Just for the benefit of anybody coming into this conversation now, one of the things that we thought would be smart is to be able to have a way for people to suggest areas for the, beyond the risk assessment, the formal risk assessment, but having areas where people can suggest areas that they think that might be smart for us to audit. So for us to consider, to take requests effectively for things that we might consider auditing, and then we would judge whether or not as a committee we bring this to this committee, and then we decide, hey, do we want to do that or not? But we think it's a reasonable thing to be able to have a way for people to petition so that doesn't involve public comment necessarily here. And when we brought this to our legal counsel, they said there's actually a lot of complexity related to this conceivably in terms of liability. But we also have an MOU in place with the county auditor controller that accepts inbound inquiries related to other issues. And I think that mechanism might be one that's actually really effective for us to use as a committee to be able to take that. We have to make sure that there's not a lot of costs associated with it, but at least they have a way that is buttoned down that be able to do this, that we would have kind of reliable way to kind of manage that rather than have a freelance kind of website for this committee where people just submit things, and that could open up complexity. Could open up a can of worms. But I think the thing is, that's part of what this committee does. We open worm cans, right? Because we want to get in there and try to understand what's going on and clear things up. And we want to do that in-house, right? So that's kind of what our job is. So I think that it's important that we be able to have a way for people to hear people who may not have otherwise a way to express things to us. And to that end, I did receive an email this morning that actually all the members of this committee received that, among other things, suggested taking a look at our public records request process. And so our PRA request process, the person who emailed me had a lot of issues with the way that those were being handled. And I think it's something that we can consider at a future, I don't want to consider it now, but it's something we can consider at a future meeting of whether we want to focus in on that and as an option for elective audit that goes beyond what we have in our formal internal audit plan. So, okay, any other things on item number 5, Aram?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so, so moving on to item number 6, I think that for review of action items, I think Janine Lim is going to provide actuals to Aram. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then we'll follow up on the COC audit on the public input portal, and then you're going to begin work on the internal on the items on our new plan, our new audit plan, as well as finishing off the work that you're doing on the signature authority audit.
That's right.
Okay, and then I think that's it. Any public participation?
No, Commissioner.
No? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you very much, Janine. Thank you, Aram. Thank you, Chris, for
Thank
being
you.
here. And thank you, Commissioner Saunders, Eileen.